Before starting, I would like to thank Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy, Director IIT Madras and Chairman of AMTDC, Professor Ramesh Babu, Secretary of AMTDC, Mr. Nanu Swami, Founder of Maxcelerator, Dr. K. Subramanian, Mrs. Navina Swami, Professor Srinivasa Devadula, Professor Piyush Shankar, all mentors, members of AMTDC, students, friends, and all of you who are attending this seminar. I would like to welcome you to this session, and I would like to thank AMTDC specifically for giving me an opportunity to present my views. Now, this particular topic I have chosen because product development basically is a very close topic and topic very useful. I have been doing that for last 32 to 34 years when I was in industry. The product development started when I started doing or working in the product development with my very first job in Kirloskar Electric, that's electrical motor generator manufacturing. And from that time onwards, right from 1981 onwards, I have been involved in product development, and I have been doing product development, manufacturing help, site visits, site problems, customer interaction, supporting the marketing, so on and so forth. In fact, it was very enriching experience for me to interact with various people. And during my stint at Crompton Greaves in Mumbai, I came across with various other activities like value engineering, and it's in that place where I actually used this concept of concurrent engineering. In fact, it was not used as a concurrent engineering, but the methodology followed was total concurrent engineering. So coming back to product development, any product development starts with idea generation. In fact, when India started developing industrially after independence, the product development was in very nascent stage, and it was not a real product development. It was just taking the designs from abroad, doing some collaboration and developing it here. Even many times, adaptation of the products to the local customers were not done. Even today, some of the companies have left India. Recently, there were a lot of news about some companies moving out of India, closing down the product manufacturing in India. And one of the reasons for that is the product developed was something that was thrust upon the customer. The product development, if you look at it from the real product development point of view, it needs a lot of understanding of the product, the manufacturing technology, manufacturing capability, what we have, and then it needs the market research to be done. What facilities, what are all the things we should offer to the customer, and then there has to be a business plan. So if we look at the product development process as such, it has something like 7 to 8 stages. And the product development starts with the ideation or a concept of the product, what can be a product, how much it will look. And please note, this product means a physical product or a service or a consultancy or similar thing. It need not be only a physical product. It can be a consultancy as well, or it can be a design consultancy, it can be analysis consultancy, or it can be a service provider that has also can be coming across a product which we are going to offer. So basically what one needs in a product development is the first thing is a idea, a complete concept of what we should do. The next step comes as a market research. Once the idea and market research are complete, market research should orient the company or the organization towards what is the requirement of the customer, because a good idea, unless there is a solid backing from the market research, will not be useful. Based on this, a business plan is made. That the step 3. Once the business plan is made, then comes making an actual product prototype wherein the design and all those things come into picture. Then comes the crowdfunding, design and production for a large scale manufacturing, and then comes the marketing and distribution. These are all general steps in product development. And if you look at this product development, personally I find there are two most important aspects of product development are design and manufacturing. And the leader of all product development concept, product development process is a designer. To be frank with you, a designer knows what a designer knows about a product. Nobody else will know the depth of the product, whatever the capacities, what is the requirement, what is the customer requirement, and what we are going to offer to the customer. That's known to a designer only. So a designer plays a very important role in product development. Now, the product development are having, there are two most standardized procedures. In fact, there was a basically only one procedure that was called as sequential engineering, and the concurrent engineering is relatively a new concept, because sequential engineering was a concept wherein I will complete my job taking the input from the person behind me and pass on my output to my next stage. That's what is a sequential engineering. The originator or marketing person will get me the customer requirement. He will note down on a piece of paper and hand it over to a designer. The designer will take that particular sheet of paper, he will do some calculation, make some drawings and hand it over to a manufacturing for building the product. So the manufacturing person till that time has no idea at all about what is going to be the product, how it is to be made, what is going to be the requirement, what is going to be the material requirement, machining requirement. No, he doesn't have any idea. Only when he gets the drawing and design specification, he will start working on it. After that is made, it will go through test, and then after testing, it will be released to customer. In between all these stages, there is hardly interaction between all these steps or the stakeholders, like a designer, purchase person, a quality person, a manufacturing engineer, and a QA testing person, a salesperson, and ultimately the customer. So if there is any mistake the salesperson has done, that will get carried over till the last point, and it will not be known till the product goes to the customer. So sequential engineering was being followed, and that was what we had undergone so far for so many years. We had no choice of having the variety. We had no choice as to we should specify what we want and we should get what we want. that started coming in, and slowly there were a lot of changes being made. The product development process got much more wider. So if you look at the right hand sketch, the top thing is the normal engineering or sequential engineering, whereas the concurrent engineering, a CE, which is called as a short form, has a process which has got many processes overlapped with each other. Like design will have lot of overlapping with the requirement fixing as well as the implementation, that is manufacturing. While manufacturing will have lot of overlap with the design and lot of overlap with the verification, what we call as a verification. Once this verification or prototyping is done, he will have lot of overlapping with the production, and once all those things are done, then only it will go to the customer. By doing so, lot of things get sorted out before the product goes for a mass scale production and before it reaches the customer. Every time a designer or a salesperson or a requirement person who understands what the customer wants has to interact between the customer and the manufacturing. And that is the beauty of this concurrent engineering, wherein one can have dialogue on both sides, right from the manufacturing till the customer. In fact, I have done so many times discussions with so many customers, whereas the customer wants something, but he is not very clear about the specification or standards, wherein we have to educate the customer. So concurrent engineering gives an opportunity for a designer or the organization to interact with the customer and make a product that will be beneficial to both. Now, sequential engineering, how does it work? It's a traditional approach. It has got a set of design activities which are all non-overlapping each other. It's even called over the wall engineering. What does it mean? That means I complete my design and toss it over to manufacturing. And I will not take back anything from manufacturing, or I will not worry about whether manufacturing is able to understand or not, whether he has the capacity to do it or not. I'll give one simple example. In the motors or the generators which are more than 1 megawatt or 2 megawatt, they need large size shafts for making the rotating parts, and these shafts are not available readily either in India or abroad also. They need a procurement time of 3 to 4 months. Now, please imagine till I complete my design, make a drawing of the shaft and hand it over to manufacturing, and then the manufacturing person will raise an purchase requisition and will go to purchase, and then purchase person will go for a tendering or getting a quotation. The time is lost very much. To avoid that, the concurrent engineering has got a simple technique which I will talk about it. So what this sequential engineering does, it completed job from one place to other place is just tossed like a ball or a package in the next compartment. The next compartment will open it, see what is there, he will try to work out and then toss it to the next compartment. So that is what is called as over the wall engineering or sequential engineering. In this case also, it starts with the need identification. It has to be converted into product requirement. It's passed on to design. Design will do the design, make the drawings, give it to manufacturing. Whatever designer thinks has to be done as a processing sheet, he will write it down and give it. He will not bother about whether the manufacturing has the capacity to do it or not. It goes through the phases of assembly, testing, installation, and then the erection and commissioning person will come back and tell you what has gone wrong, how it should have been. So that creates a lot of headache. and problems. So the disadvantage of this sequential engineering are it may not meet all the requirement, and just to make all the requirements it may become a bulky white elephant and it will go beyond the cost budget. This sequential engineering is not concerned about product manufacturability or assembly. Problems detected in later phases lead to a redesign. That means complete product has to be redesigned. The entire jigs, fixtures, manufacturing processes has to be reworked out. This needs a number of iterations redesign before the mass production starts. And in this case of mass production, suppose we talk of something like a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, they need a number of robotic stations, platforms, which itself takes number of and a long lead time period, which will be further delaying the processing of the product. This all results in undue delay and it results in unnecessary extra cost and the customer may not be able to afford it. So the product costlier project will not stand in the market and the market share will be lost. Even I have seen some of the companies which were holding very high market ratio. When I came from a company which had 80% of market share of alternators beyond 1000 kVA till 1990 lost its market share and it became almost closing stage it had come. Slowly it picked up, but it had lost the market and many outside companies came and got stabilized in India. To overcome this concurrent engineering, overcome these problems of sequential engineering, the concept of concurrent engineering took place. This concurrent engineering encompasses a number of various aspects which are all available like Six Sigma, DFMA, etc. etc. So what it does is it starts simultaneous interactions with the customer as well as manufacturing. It will have interaction with customer for product functionality, requirement, his requirement, what does he want, whether he has asked for the correct product or not, and then it goes on talking to manufacturing and checks with them whether it is possible or not. So there is a overlapping stage makes the manufacturing also ready because it will understand that there is going to be a product which will need additional facility to be manufactured. It will need new machinery, it will need new facilities, it will need new testing methods, it will need new hardware, software, and they will be ready by the time the product comes for testing. These life cycle phases overlap each other. The added advantage is there is no wall between the phases. Like designer will not wait till completing his drawings and specification. Work on products wherein we used to give what is called as advanced ordering information, AOI, advanced ordering information. That is, for example, if a shaft of 200 mm or 300 mm dia and 4 meter long, it will take about 6 months to procure. So before even I complete my shaft drawing, I will add some extra margin, 100 mm on either side and diametrically 25 mm, and then I will ask purchase person to procure that bar. So this will help me reducing the procurement time, and whenever the bar comes, I will be ready with the drawing. It can directly go for manufacturing. So the time for manufacturing comes down drastically. The walls are demolished. The time to product comes down drastically. So let us talk more detail about concurrent engineering. So concurrent engineering is the method of designing and developing engineering products wherein different departments work on different stages of product development simultaneously. Like a designer will work on detailed design and drawing, manufacturing will start working on developing a manufacturing facility for the enhancement to meet the customer requirement or the product requirement. The procurement will start developing new vendors or modification with the vendor requirement, and then it will stabilize on particular specific vendors so that the last minute rush will not be there. It helps to increase the efficiency of product development. That means the number of similar products can be simultaneously developed, and the first time yield, what we called as FTY. This is one of the concepts that is recently come in. FTY, first time yield. That is how much you are successful when you do it for the first time. So the first time yield probability goes very high. That means whenever you try to do something, the very first time you become successful. That's because you have interacted with the customer for its requirements and you have interacted with the manufacturing for their problems. Reduces the marketing time. It reduces the manufacturing time. There is an overall reduction in development cost. And not only that, the product quality also goes up. Please note, the product quality doesn't mean it's a glossy look. No. Many times we have a very odd feeling that a product that is looking very glossy, very good color is a quality product. Maybe true for a automobile where the color plays a very vital role. But when we talk of product, engineering product has other than glossy look as a quality requirement. That is what the customer wants. That is what is quality. Customer specification. Simple definition of quality is meeting and exceeding customer specification. Then it's a quality product. Now coming to this concurrent engineering, how and where did it originate? Because we are all accustomed to hear that all the latest techniques have originated in Japan, like Six Sigma or whatever it is, Kaizen, PPS, Toyota Production System, etc. This particular concurrent engineering was very first implemented successfully in US in 1989. Boeing 777 was one of the first aircraft to be developed using concurrent engineering. Because if you look at the aircraft industry today, there are two giants fighting with each other for their share in the aircraft industry, Boeing and Airbus. So whatever Airbus does, Boeing has to come out fast before the Airbus comes out. There are many drawbacks also to that, but concurrent engineering has helped Boeing to bring out Boeing 777 before Airbus can bring out a similar product. Now, officially, the definition of concurrent engineering is concurrent engineering, also known as simultaneous engineering, is a method of designing and developing products in which different stages run simultaneously. The word simultaneously is most important in this. So the different stages run simultaneously rather than consecutively. That means not one after another, they run simultaneously. And this is what we do, what is the parallel processing in computer technology, what we call. So many problems, so many programs will be running simultaneously. This is what is exactly done in concurrent engineering. It decreases product development time, time to market, leading to improved productivity and reduced cost. There are two most important aspects of product development. One is the time to market, and the second one is the cost. Even if the cost is not affordable, customer would buy the product. So, what are all the elements of concurrent engineering? There are three main elements of concurrent engineering. One is the people, second is the process, and third is the technology. Please note they are all overlapping with each other. So what are all those elements? The first is people. People is most important of all the activities because it's the people who decide what to do, how to do, when to do, where to do, etc. Of all the activities, people are most important. And in concurrent engineering, what we need is a multidisciplinary team. It's not only the designer, it's a multidisciplinary team. It's a teamwork culture and good communication and collaboration between each. It's not only good communication means it's not that you should have very good or latest models of mobile. It's a understanding between two departments. It's understanding between two suppliers and purchase person. It's a good understanding between the marketing person and the customer and the marketing person and the designer. So that is what is good communication and collaboration. Whenever there is something that is passed on by a customer to the marketing, the same should seamlessly and immediately follow to the designer. And the designer should immediately convert that into a design requirement and the design should come out or change without any problem. The most important part of it is teamwork. I will be presenting one small case study at the end. How did we do and what did we achieve on a very large project. Next comes the process. And the process means lot of things in the developmental activities. The very first is project planning process, workflow management, deciding when, how, or rather what we can say 4W1 is when, where, how, why, and who will do it, who will design, who will collaborate with the customer, who will coordinate with the customer and the marketing, I mean rather customer and the manufacturing, customer and the testing, etc. So that is the project planning. It will be a work flow chart preparation with the dates and the identified activity milestone. Deciding the workflow, how the work will flow. How do you track the product requirement? That means in the design, if you have decided what is the requirement, that is, for example, I'm just giving an example. There used to be what is called a totally enclosed motor or induction motors where the external dust, dirt and water should not enter inside because dust, dirt, water etc. are harmful to the winding. And if this induction motors goes and works in a dusty atmosphere like a mine or a cement factory, it can harm the winding. So IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission, has come out with a specific protection required for a machine. So they call it as a IP, and this particular dust proof and waterproof is called IP55, wherein the no substantial amount of water or dust should enter inside. And this design has to be such a perfect that nothing should enter inside the project. This has to be tested, this has to be ensured, and the customer should get a product which will be meeting his requirements. Because I have seen how this particular entry of dust, dirt, and water can damage the equipment, rotating equipment in particular. Then the comes most important is quality function deployment, which encompasses lots and lots of other processes. Design evaluation, design analysis methodologies, how we should do, brainstorming, failure mode and effect analysis, design of experiments, CPM, PERT, all these processes are to be implemented. Please note, it's not necessary that each and every of these has to be implemented. These are all the processes available to help you the speed up the product development. In fact, FMEA is one process which I had known about it, I had learned about it, but we implemented it on large scale when we went in for a CE marking of hydropower plant. Design of experiments was one such process which we had extensively used when I worked with GE aircraft engine, wherein a design of experiment reduces number of iterations required for checking the variations. From 100 to you can probably do about 7 or 8 different experiments and conclude the required results. The CPM and PERT is a high-level management tracking tool where one can track the progress, what are all the problems that are there, what is the risk, what is the mitigation, what are all alternatives available, and where we are going wrong or where we have a slack or we are on tight on the delivery. These are all very important tools, and they don't need, like CPM PERT doesn't need much of a infrastructure. It's just one person needs to sit down, get the data, work out on where we are, what are all the milestones, where we are, and how we are going. Where we are going right or not, we need to change the priorities, we need to correct the goals of the particular teams or not. That is what is CPM and PERT. It actually helps a lot for product development. Now, it's a selectively one has to choose which are all the processes to be followed. Even in CFD, there are many techniques available for improving the product development. And the third element of concurrent engineering is technology. And by technology, what I mean is using correct tools and technology for the product development. Like today, if you are developing some new product, it is always recommended to go in for a finite element analysis before even you start making the product, because finite element analysis is one technology or one tool that helps you identify the various problems related to the design, and you need not wait till the last moment and redesign the product. Then comes training needs and training the people supportive tools. It's not only the people who make the machine, but training has to be given to the people who are going to use the product. The technology helps in that. Project management software, how which software is used for the project management. Project product data management, PFD, 3D CAD and rapid prototyping typing technologies. Today, rapid prototyping, typing, the 3D printing and similar tools are available which help you know how the product will be, what it is going to be much before the product actually comes out. Suitable FEA tools, DFM, DFA, DFMA and DOE, like design for manufacturing, design for assembly and design of experiment and
Sir,
assembly.
sorry for interrupting, sir. There seems to be some static noise from your side.
Yeah, yeah. Is okay now?
Yeah, yeah. Now, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, because I don't know what happened. Somehow. So these are all some of the technologies, and the technologies are getting added day in and day out. So few years back, 3D printing, 3D modeling was not available, but today 3D printing, 3D modeling, CAD modeling, FEA tools, they help you tremendously on development of the product. This is a typical concurrent product development chart wherein you start with the business case building and finally you come till the customer support, and each and every stage you get a feedback loop, or you have to support the manufacturing, you have to support the design, you have to support the uh, manufacturing, production technology, marketing, etc. So you can see a lot of uh, cross connections and a lot of terms like DFM, design for manufacturing, DFA, that is design for assembly, DFMA, manufacturing and assembly. All those things are available today. They need to be implemented so that they can definitely help you reduce the manufacturing time. So coming to the next as the role of and responsibilities of the designer. So coming to responsibilities of a designer, the designer is a creator of the product design, drawing, assembly drawing, specification. He will decide what is how the product will be, what are all the materials to be used, what is the process to be followed. Present It will present product ideas to relevant team. It will suggest improvement. He will convert the concepts into functional prototype. He will carry out the research into design concept, whereas alternatives he will study and come with the correct one which is most suitable. He will also have to study industry trends and market conditions, which are all old technologies, which are all the old uh, processes that had to be replaced by the new technologies, new materials, new processes he has to decide. And continuously he has to go on modify and revise existing designs. The designer has to continuously keep up, otherwise the product becomes obsolete. There are many examples we have seen day in and day out how the product become obsolete. So what is the role of a designer? Bring the user expectation of a product and convert customer requirements into a physical product. So that is a very simple definition, but that means each and everything because he has to understand what the customer wants and convert it into what the final product will be. Now, one simple example that there is a customer who wants a waterproof watch and the Navy wants a submarine. Both of the products have to work underwater. The requirement may be similar, but customer's waterproof watch doesn't have to go below 5 feet or 2 feet of water, whereas a submarine has to go hundreds of meters below the sea level. So the loading, the amount of water that should be prevented, the type of material that should be used, the protection that should be done, the complete structural design of the component is entirely different. Maybe these two look very odd to compare, but I have purposely put them together because both are related to waterproofing. What one wants is no water should enter my watch. I should have a clear cut indication without any water entry inside a watch. Whereas the submarine had to withstand thousands and thousands of kgs of load, pressure when it goes hundreds of meter below, and still it has to function. It has to support the life. So the designer's role varies drastically. He has to decide, he has to do a lot of calculation, iteration, and he has to come out with a foolproof design. Why I am telling all those things is a simple graph will make the things clear. Cost impact of design change varies drastically. The opportunity window gets closed every time the product goes one step ahead. The cost of design change during the concept or requirement stage is con- uh, comparatively very low. When it goes to product design stage, when you create a bill of material, there is a certain limitations have already stepped in. We have already frozen certain amount of design. And when the sourcing and prototyping is being done, already the components, machines have come, they are ready for testing. And after testing, when the machine or the product goes on the site, it's almost closed window where you don't have anything except changing of the product. Now, I have seen many times wherever there is a wrong product being supplied, the supplier has to go, he has to change the entire component. Like we had a problem with the 3.5 megawatt generator supplied to a Turkish hydropower plant, and one of the rotor pole of the out of 8 poles, one of the poles had a problem, winding issue. So the result was the supplier of the generator had to take out the generator out, find out a workshop in the Turkey, and change all 8 poles. That costed them a fortune. Ultimately, these sort of failures result in a lot of project losses. So this is how the interaction with the manufacturing, testing, and customer in the early stages will prevent these sort of failures and help you reduce the impact. Now, coming to some case study, firms like Boeing, Intel, Canon have used we have been using C methodology to a large extent. In fact, Boeing 777 transport design resulted in a time compression of 1.5 years as compared to its predecessor Boeing 767. Can we imagine? In fact, when I was working with GE aircraft engines, the resultant of the implementation of computerization and finite element analysis, the latest techniques has resulted in development period of an aircraft engine from 48 months to 24 months. 2 years was quite saving. Why I am telling this is in case of aircraft engines, the aircraft engine cannot even go on production shop unless and until FAA, Federal Aviation Agency, accepts the design. They have to be satisfied with the design, then they will go ahead and then the machine will be manufactured. So 1.5 years saving of time is substantial. That's how Boeing took a step ahead of Airbus Industries. Now, here is one case study which I had worked during 1999 to 2000. We had a huge order or large order of 55 numbers of 1.5 megawatt, 750 RPM, 50 Hz, 6.6 kV motors for a lift irrigation scheme. And this was against stiff competition and very competitive rate. The deliveries were spread, but the initial development and the offering for the testing had to be done in record time. Secondly, we had to cut down on the raw material cost. So this particular case we worked on and we achieved something great. So in this case, a interdepartmental team was formed which had representatives from design, purchase, manufacturing and quality. And I was the leader, and we handled this particular case right from the beginning till the manufacturing and supply. All those four departments specifically worked on various aspects. We did all the design of the motor in optimized way to get maximum savings. We used lot of new techniques like FEA, and we were able to do lot of savings in the housing, shaft, and all other aspects, which reduce the cost of the product drastically. The purchase worked on various aspects of supply, developing a supply chain, and they had an advantage of quantity. A large quantity gave them advantage so that they can put suppliers against each other and get a very competitive price. And not only that, they could develop two or three sources so that there won't be any issues with the supply. The next stage was manufacturing, where the manufacturing had given us number of suggestions, number of requirements, and they had pointed out earlier errors where they had faced in mechanical design, assembly, and final testing areas. Electrical designs were also based on standard material and processes to avoid any specialty. And on the quality front, it was something really which helped us understand the production, because as a designer people were not bothered about lot of old errors and mistakes. Once the product goes out of the factory, that's the end of it. Nobody bothers about the correction in drawings or making the changes in the assembly, etc. So this particular project gave us an opportunity to correct all this in the beginning itself. We use the tools, right? Regular design review meetings, CAD, APA, and electrical design software, value engineering, DFMA, and management reviews at regular intervals. And the result was standardization of the design for future orders. This helped us develop a new methodology for the design, mechanical as well as electrical. The machines were successfully tested for performance. First time there was no issue in this testing. And the major success was reducing the material cost to rupees 7 lakhs from rupees 9 lakhs. And imagine in 1999, 2 lakhs per machine for 55 machines, about 1.1 crore was saved, and that helped us make this order break even, if not profitable, break even. and this helped us get a first prize on large scale value engineering in that particular company. We were able to achieve that particular thing which was not achieved so far. Now that brings us to the end. So, in a summary, I would like to say concurrent engineering is a very powerful workflow methodology, and many times people even don't know that they are following, but that need to be standardized and institutionalized. People need to work on that and make it institutionalized. Please note there is a one size fits all methods or procedures. There is no such thing. One has to adopt this concurrent engineering to their organization. The organization structures are different, processes are different, but concurrent engineering has to be implemented across the organization. A suitable system has to be developed, and this can help the challenges faced by the product managers to reduce the developmental times. So,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dilip. I think it was an excellent presentation covering the past, the present, and the future. I think I'm sure that the future is going to be on the concurrent or beyond that. See, I just wanted to start with a question. See, today's world is changing, like we talk about Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0. So, with your explanation on the sequential engineering to concurrent engineering, are we going further into something else, or do you think that we'll continue to work on the concurrent engineering for some more time?
yeah, in fact, now that artificial intelligence and other things are really going to make a lot of changes, and how artificial engineering will help in this concurrent engineering is one of the things which need to be fixed, because artificial engineering is one place where the human intervention is going off, whereas concurrent engineering needs a lot of human interaction, interpretation, talking, and it's not only the conditions, it's only even many times there are a lot of personal rapport also help in this. So the teamwork basically, how it is going to be, that is one thing we need to see. But yes, concurrent engineering is going to be the future, and that will have to be adopted if you want to be more and more competitive. Otherwise, if you depend on the conventional engineering, no, we will not be there. We will be thrown out.
Yeah, I'll come back to you again at the end. Let me ask the participants and others who would like to ask any specific questions on the topic.
Yeah, yes.
Any specific question from the students and others? See, let me ask you one more question, which is bothering me. Today, we are talking about the digital twins.
Yeah,
When you talk about the digital twin, I think I see that two worlds in which we will be living. One is the cyber world, and the other one is the physical world.
yeah.
How this concurrent engineering can be either implemented or viewed in that cyber physical world? Like you are going to exactly mimic the same thing in both the worlds, which is going to be extremely difficult, no? So, what
Yeah.
is your view on the
No,
digital twin based, manufacturing or design and manufacturing?
uh, it's a very tricky question to say, because
Mm.
digital engineering is taking away the human intervention. It is taking the expertise based on various uh, limited, or rather various experiences available with the people. But we don't know what's going to be the next challenges, how it is going to be. So there is a limitation on digital implementation wherein
Mhm.
some amount of human intervention has to be there. So personally, what I feel is even today, I'll just give an example. I'll make it my point more clear. There is a finite element method, and today people have come out with what is called as workbench.
Mm. Mm.
In the workbench design, what happens is the user intervention is not much. It will make a model, it will just analyze and give the result. Now, the user has got a limited say in the workbench. But what happens is in finite element analysis or problem solving, the designer has to really work on various aspects. He has to decide what analysis to be done, how to be done. In fact, the simple thing like how do we take the boundary condition,
Mm.
what workbench will do and what a individual expert user will do may be different. So that will lead to a different solution.
Mm.
And how to take care of that, how to build that in artificial intelligence is somewhat we need to see. So that it's not very clear, but what you say is correct. More and more of digital things have to happen.
Mm.
The specialization, the specialists are going to be reduced and it's going to face a lot of problems for it.
Mm. Okay, I think maybe I'll again ask the students and others so if they have specific.
Let me add one comment. This is Subbu here.
Yes,
And
sir.
first of all, thank you, Dr. Kulkarni. Very good presentation and very appropriate. Uh, Putting it in a bigger framework, I think AMTDC should make all these webinars available in some format
Yeah.
because taken together, they form a very nice collection of information useful to anyone so that it becomes like a good video library so that people can go and see Google search is good where you want some specific topic, but you want something in general related to manufacturing, these kind of some or innovation or concurrent working together, common space, these kind of webinars are very useful. One additional comment with reference to this seminar, Dr. Kulkarni talked about over-the-wall engineering versus concurrent engineering. That is really what we also talk about in terms of system thinking. Over-the-wall engineering is done today because somebody has something to do, they give it to the next person, and then they do something more. In fact, I was talking to some students today as part of the internship program. When they come to the internship program, there are 3 students in the program. They all work as if they had just come to the project on their own without anything to do with other 2 people. That's not what the project is, or that's not what life is in general about.
Yeah.
So, concurrent engineering is a structured way of providing system thinking across many departments, as Dr. Kulkarni pointed out. And no matter what department you are working in, there'll always be information.
Yes.
And digitization of that will continue to happen. So the same concurrent engineering can be imagined to happen without any physical object and model like that. That will be called a digital twin.
Mm.
So digital twin is nothing more than representation of the physical process using digital models or analogs or computational devices. So in fact, this whole webinar can be made a digital twin by having all the people on the screen as made pick some sort of images, and then the webinar going on in parallel to the actual webinar.
Yeah.
But as Dr. Kulkarni pointed out, it is the inability of the individuals to contribute on an individual basis based on human skills,
Mm.
which is being slowly taken away because of the digital skills. We
Yeah.
can't blame the digital skill for that. We
Yeah.
have to have individual human beings who are capable of stepping beyond their comfort zone
Yeah.
and utilizing those tools to
Yes.
take advantage of them. Then concurrent engineering, system thinking, design thinking, all these things will become enablers for those people. So what AMTDC can do, which may be continuing to do, or already doing and more of, will be students coming out of that center, researchers coming out of those centers, are promoting in their own way of doing work, are thinking across boundaries, thinking across departments to do what you have to do. And for them, there are many tools available, concurrent engineering being one of them. There is also a whole field called customer success management, which is almost equivalent to concurrent engineering, except it is not taking place in the physical design product development space, but it's the software space, where software companies are acquiring more and more companies for service as opposed to selling software. The whole field is evolving in the Bay Area now called customer success management. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody at Snowflake. They provide a lot of space for storing the data. But Snowflake is becoming more successful than Amazon Warehouse because they're offering a sort of custom concurrent engineering in the data management field. But they call it ecosystem development. But, so the fundamentals that the students who learn out of these kind of webinars, if they're able to put their own creativity behind that, sky is the limit for taking advantage of that. Those are my few short comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Subbu. I think we are arranging these webinars with some editing, and I think we will be definitely be providing them to the students and also the subsequent batches also. So, and of course, as you said rightly, the digital twin is I don't know whether it has matured enough to replace the human being and then do the things in an intelligent way or not. Maybe in some areas like the aircraft, industry, or I don't have much idea about it, but I just thought that the productivity, lead time reduction may improve further with those advanced methods in like digital twins, etc.
My only brief comment on this is without knowing anything, I can guarantee as much as I'm alive today that anybody who doesn't think and use their brain to expand their role or what they're doing, using tools like concurrent engineering system, things like that, they will be replaced by digital twins and digital tools without question. So there's no doubt about that. So, but those who want to be successful and make progress, if they're able to expand their mind and thinking and use these tools, they will find digital tools like digital twins and others as enablers to make them more successful. So the answer is yes, some people will definitely be replaced and reduced to just a paper push, type pushers of buttons on the keyboard. Compared, and the few who are able to break out of that and able to think and use their brains, the God-given talent to think, along with the education that they get in schools and research labs like AMTDC, they will shine like stars using all the digital tools. Who will fall in which group? Only they will know, and beyond them, God will know.
That's true.
Unless you use the tools intelligently, the tools can be really dangerous also. That is what I say. One has to know the tool, which tool to use, how to use it. Means, unfortunately, some of the people, they know how to use the software, but why to use the software? Like, I always tell people, we get know how, we don't get know why. And unless we go to know that particular know why, we will be nowhere. That is where the crux of the issue is.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Kulkarni. And then, any other questions from anybody? I think we have some of the mentors and also Dr. John and also Mr. Kathireshan and Mr. Rambabu. Anything specific? Yeah, I think there are no specific queries on the topic. I think Rambabu, I think you would like to say something.
No, nothing. I just want to thank Dr. Dilip for his
Yeah.
presentation, and it's very good to know the developments and the engineering concepts. Otherwise, nothing much. Dr. Muthu has spoken all the items.
Yes.
And as he also suggested, if you can make a library of all the presentations, it will be a good reference material, not only for this batch and even for the future batches.
Yeah, I think we are doing it, one by one. I think in the next couple of weeks it may be available now. So
Okay, then. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Dilip, and you also, and everybody.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. I think thank you very much, Dilip and Dr. Subbu and others who have participated and made this session very lively. So I just once again thank you all and thank the students also to take these points into their career as they go along in any position in any, either engineering or a software engineering. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.